Hello, welcome to Believers in Business. I'm your host, Alexa Economos, along with the team behind the nonprofit Rebuilding Our Heroes. Well, welcome to you all from Rebuilding Our Heroes. Can you all first start by introducing yourselves? And Jason, we'll start with you.
Jason Wheeler. This is Adam.
Jason, and what do you do for Rebuilding Our Heroes?
Oh, director of fundraising.
Mm-hmm. And you're also a veteran.
Yes.
And Adam.
I'm the president of Rebuilding Our Heroes, and we're all co-founders. We're all board of directors here.
Okay, Michael? Would you like to introduce yourself and your wife?
Sure, Michael Emerson. My
I'm
beautiful
Esther.
wife, Esther Emerson.
Wonderful. And you're all co-founders and board members of Rebuilding Our Heroes, and it's so good to be here with you today. Adam, could you, first of all, for people who aren't familiar with Rebuilding Our Heroes, could you tell us what your nonprofit is about and what you all aim to achieve?
The vision is to take reclaimed, recycled, and biodegradable materials and to integrate those into a construction process for eco-friendly housing. The purpose is to hire and house veterans. We want to keep it simple, but the more we think about it, the more we find out the deeper the meaning is and the deeper the purpose is.
To hire and to house veterans. Yes. And I know that for you, this is a very personal, it's a very personal venture, and it's a calling because your father is a veteran.
Yes. He proudly says, his name is Jim Davidson, and he proudly says, when people ask where did you go to college, he says University of Vietnam. Wow. And with a big smile. He's 70, 2 titanium shoulders, and has to get back surgery every 9 months. Has Agent Orange, a form of leukemia. So when he does back surgery, he can't take pain medicine. I get to doctor him up when he comes back. And just being stationed all over the place, the combat missions that he's been involved in, it's got a lot of meaning for me.
Yeah, a lot of personal meaning for all of you. Mm-hmm. And Jason, we're going to talk to you in a second about that as well. But Adam, before we move forward, you have a very interesting background. When I read about your background, it kind of struck me like, well, he's really a jack of all trades. So can you first of all talk about your background and then how it led you to create Rebuilding Our Heroes?
Okay, my background's chemistry. That's what I studied in college.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. And so I've worked as a chemist. I've worked as a process engineer. I've even done some electrical engineering. Worked for a big float glass company, but the traveling was too much when my daughters were younger, so I got out of that. Worked in real estate, land development. Always wanted to go back to chemistry. I always said I could do that when my daughters were raised, but I wanted to be a big part of their life. So a guy that I played some baseball with in college, we were playing golf one day. I was taking a year off with a no-compete, and he said, you always said you wanted to teach when you got older, and I was in my late 20s. And he said, come in tomorrow. Well, I walked in thinking, what am I going to find out about teaching? And they handed me a chemistry book and a physics book and a schedule and said, you're teaching. And then he came by in second period and threw me a hat and said, by the way, you're my baseball coach too. So I did that for a while. That was down in Ennis. I wanted to get to Collin County or Frisco for the schools for my daughters. Moved up here. Frisco ISD has been great to me. Mm-hmm. Both my daughters play golf. My oldest is playing college golf at Incarnate. My youngest is a sophomore, playing some great golf right now. I coach the golf program and I teach a couple classes. I've taught 14 classes now. I've taught the science, the math side, and now I'm teaching a global business class that gives me a little bit more flexibility. And so I'm teaching classes in the morning. I'm working my extra minutes of the day with the team here, and then it forces me also to continue coaching my daughter, and I have the golf program there.
So you came to this point in your life where you said, we're going to start this nonprofit, and this is going to benefit and involve veterans.
Yes.
And you did this in the summer, but you had to assemble a team. This is no easy undertaking. So you get to this past summer and you gather with your friends and you say, we're going to do this?
I probably talked to 60 or 70 people. I knew Michael was a key component with the construction side. And then Esther, that was it was a bonus, really.
Because Michael and Esther are missionaries.
Yes, they're,
Your
the
life
missionary
work is helping
background.
other people.
Esther really takes care of cleaning things up for us.
That's for
I
sure.
feel bad sometimes, but she's great at the details. Met Jace at the gym. I had discussed the opportunity of that position with probably 24 people and 9 other vets, and met him at the gym, and I was like, this is my guy right here.
Yeah.
And then, and we built a relationship before we really got into it. My dad and I came over one night, and my dad considers him a son too. I consider him my brother. So,
Wonderful.
and then we have another director for operations, and I met him in coaching. He couldn't be here today, but he's a retired NFL guy, Devin Lemon, so I wanted to mention him. And he's helping me with the systems that we're putting in place and some of the processes. So when we get going, I have another set of eyes on the operation side.
And I do want to talk about how this all looks, because we are talking about homes for veterans, and veterans also helping in the construction of these homes and building a shop where you can build these homes, where you can build these communities.
Right.
And I think what speaks to so many people is when our veterans come home from serving, there's an integration into society that is more difficult, I would think, than any of us could comprehend. And Jason, you've been on that journey. You served in the 90s, and then your intention was to serve again after 9/11.
Correct.
Can you speak to what is that like, coming back from seeing combat, going through tremendous stress, and trying to reintegrate into society that might not understand everything that our vets have gone through?
Well, I can tell you from when I was younger, when I was a kid, I'm a pretty focused person. That's what I think I bring to the table. When I came back, I was so focused on going to school, and that was my mission. But the second time I was a little bit older, I had a little bit more feelings. So after 9/11, after my injury, and going through a lot of rehab, I still had my legs back then, but I was going through all kinds of surgeries. I had no feelings from both of my knees down. I was going through a thing where I'm legally blind, trying to deal with a traumatic brain injury, severe PTSD. That was extremely tough. And then when I was trying to integrate and trying to get a job, and I was at one of these states where it was a fire will state. I was in Illinois. And then so being able to keep a job was very hard for me, because I'd get infections in my legs. They'd have to, do a little here, do a little there, and it was very tough. It was very hard. So I come back and I would lose a job, being in the hospital for 3 or 4 weeks, ICU for like a week and a half, and then I'd have to start back over again. And it was a very difficult time, very stressful on my family. And then trying to get the proper help that I needed, the proper medical care that I needed, was not available, was not there. And back then, I was only 90%. Nobody helped me to get 100%. Nobody told me about Social Security, so I didn't have any of the benefits, So at that time in 2008, that's when I had to file for bankruptcy. I had to file for foreclosure. I lost my teammate that went back over there again in 2008. Ryan Mesa from 5th Group. In 2008, I tried to commit suicide myself, because I couldn't get any help, and I didn't feel like I was worthy enough for living anymore. It was very difficult. And then at that time, then I had some help from a woman named Vicki Ray, who saved my life today. And, got me back on the track. I was worthy, and I can help people. I still have this dream of still, trying to inspire whoever I can get in touch with, trying to help, all my brothers and sisters out there. And, excuse me. And so that's what I live for, and my drive is just, I don't want anybody else to suffer like I had to suffer. I don't want anybody else to miss their family like I miss my family. I haven't seen my kids in 3 years and 5 months. I don't think anybody can imagine how that feels. And I lost all the rights to my kids because I was legally blind. I'm wheelchair bound. I have a traumatic brain injury and I lost everything. You know, so for me, I don't want any families to go through this. And if we can provide jobs to people, we can provide a home for them, I'm all in. I'll do whatever I have to do to make it happen.
I can't thank you enough for sharing with us your feelings. I don't think it was a dry eye here. What's so incredible is to meet you. One would never, because your spirit is so strong, one would never know that you endured all that you did. And I can only imagine, what does it mean to you to be a part of this organization now that's going to help so many people who, like you, might feel alone?
Well, I can tell you, the day after when I died 3 times in my life, when I came back, you know, and I was in ICU for 8.5 weeks, I got out of the hospital 4 months later. I was thankful for my life. And when I met Adam at the gym, I was thankful for my life again because I can give somebody else their life. I can give it to them. You know, I have that ability now to help other people. And that's what I'm very thankful for, you know.
I think you're already helping a lot of people just by sharing your story.
Yep.
And I want you to know how generous that is of you. And I'm very thankful that you're sharing your story because I think it's going to help a lot of people. And I think the organization we know is going to help a lot of people.
Yes, absolutely.
Can you all explain, trying to reach people just like Jason, how many people do you think that you can reach, and how exactly will this process work? So once again, I just want to reiterate, it's houses for veterans, but it's also providing jobs for veterans. So these veterans would be helping, correct, with
Yes.
building the home. Something that our veterans do struggle with is
Yes.
coming home and finding or maintaining a job.
Mhm.
So how many people do you think that you can reach in terms of the providing a home and providing a job?
Well, the big vision, the sky's the limit. But we started in July, and we've accomplished 3 times faster from what people are telling us to get to this point right now. Established the prototype. We have some really cool ideas for new prototypes. But our first goal, and we have a lot of people sitting on the sidelines. Our first goal is we found a location, and we want to hire 3 or 2 3-man crews.
Location for the shop.
For the shop
Which is
and,
where-
and the housing. We're
and
a
the
small
housing.
community.
Okay.
And, you know, we have to help 1 before we can help 100. And so our goal is, we're halfway there. We're about 1.4 million left to raise. When we do that, and we want to provide not manual labor jobs, but technical jobs with automation and the equipment and the machinery. We have companies that will donate 60-70% of the equipment and the machines that we need, just waiting for us to hit this tipping point. So I mean, it doesn't matter how it comes in, but we know we're gonna get the money somewhere, and we're gonna help out 6. We're gonna video those 6 being trained. They're gonna help us renovate the shop. They're gonna help us set up the container perimeter setting that we have set up, the shipping or the production line process, and we're going to build a small community right there for these guys. Our idea is, you know, we'll get some older trucks and get them driving around, and just like we're working on trying to find the means for Jace right now for a car. But it'll be a community setup that is comfortable. There's camaraderie, and we will document that weekly to share, because I've given to nonprofits. And then I don't really get an update, or I get a spreadsheet that says it's transparent. And to me, I would rather have something tangible. So our goal is 1 to 2 times a week, whether it's 4 minutes or 8 minutes, that it's going out there either on our YouTube channel or it's on our slider on our website, where people are connecting to watching the renovation and the build happen. At that point, once we have a shop, it fills in the blanks. For some of the people we're talking to form alliances for sustaining income, to hopefully there's some land that we're working with a group called Guiding Our Destiny that's going to help us provide extra jobs multiple ways for veterans. It's already doing that. They're going to help us fill in the blanks to get grant money. The government and other programs have money. That's about all they can do. The government won't run a business, and they can't fix this. It's going to take a grassroots effort. It's going to take corporate sponsors, and it's going to take us to fix this. I've watched my dad struggle through times, but also be such a great role model, because coming back from Vietnam the way he did, his faith has always been strong. Every morning he'll read the Bible and spend 30, 40 minutes in it. His attitude is phenomenal. I think we all get stuck in life. I call it getting stuck in judgment. You know, judging other people or ourselves, or judging what we don't have that other people have. But he's always taught me that the way you remain confident is, don't get stuck in judgment, get stuck in healing. Knowing that we all need forgiveness, so we have to be willing to give it, to get it. But he always taught me to stay out of judgment, or you'll miss things. You'll focus on an elusive happiness, and you'll become complacent, and you'll miss out on things that make him smile, a good sunrise or a sunset. Or when he got back from Afghan, a hot shower, which you relate to too, as a missionary.
Yeah.
A hot shower instead of maybe one shower a week, and it's a cold one for a minute. And through my hard times in life, he's made it real easy for that to be a reason instead of an excuse. And we've given, all of us have given to charities, but we've all felt like we wanted to start our own.
Yeah.
Not that we could do it better, but to collaborate with the ones that have missing parts, and we could help them. And I felt like we were unique. The vision in a polarizing time today, the vision, if I talk to liberal groups, it's green. If I talk to conservatives, it's good stewardship. It's apolitical. And how do you not want to help out our veterans?
I mean, I was just going to say,
How could you not do that?
whatever your political inclinations may be, it's always about supporting our veterans and our military.
I mean, our vision and our purpose, I think, could be something that's very unifying in a time that needs it.
What does your dad say, seeing that what you all have created?
Well, Dad's my best friend. He's very proud. And he's worked with DEA and Customs and other things. He's done, he describes it as he's always been a warrior for Jesus. You know, I've had to do things I may not be proud of. People judge me all the time, but I prayed about it, and I know in my heart it's right. And he wanted to be an advisor and kind of distant. He likes to stay, out of the spotlight.
On the periphery.
But I was like, Dad, you've got to come on the board. I want to do this as a father-son team. And then he finally, last week, was like, let's go ahead and do it. I'm ready. So, and when he can't fly anymore, which is maybe 5 years away.
And by the way, he's flying today. That's why he's not here.
He's 70. And he's been retired 4 times, but he thinks you die when you retire. And to him, I think we build this up, and it's a place where he can go, be around his brothers and sisters, and have camaraderie. And take Justice's boyfriend. We have a 145-pound Rottweiler, thanks to Miguel, to the shop. And to me, that's the feel is to create a family at the shop with these guys. And some may grow to a point where we help them start a vet business. I want to help other vet businesses get going, because that's more jobs. They'll hire more vets.
Right.
But it would be something that he doesn't just sit around like he thinks retirement people do. He gets something to do for the rest of his life.
Yeah, and helping so
And
many.
it's meaningful.
Helping so many people, and that really is your life work, Michael and Esther. You're
Yeah.
missionaries. You spent a lot of time in Mexico. You're back here now, stateside, and when you learned about really what the focus would be of this nonprofit, what did that mean to you?
Well, I have, it's always been interesting because sometimes there could be a conflict with the violent side of war as opposed to missionary work. But for me, what I've come to realize, and it's been very important, is realizing that we all have a calling in life. We're all born for a reason. And we need people to protect us. We need warriors. And I've learned to develop being around them more, seeing what they've done, seeing the sacrifices that people make, not just a government sort of calling a shot for politics, but what the individuals go through. It's given me just the greatest respect for these men and women who go out and they make sacrifices. I didn't realize the extent of the sacrifices until I started researching it. And there's days when I sit there and I research and I'm just weeping at some of these stories. It's absolutely amazing. And I feel like if we could come out of our bubble of how we live so comfortably and we're so used to things and just look at the sacrifices that these people have made, we would realize how much we have to do to help them. Because it's not fair that they go out and they sacrifice, they miss Christmases, they miss time with their kids,
And
they
their
miss
families, too.
their births of their children.
Yeah.
They're not there, sometimes for years. And we owe them to provide for them and to give back. That's how I see it.
Michael, I know that you have you and Esther have girls, have daughters.
Yeah. Yes.
So when you talk to them about rebuilding our heroes, what do they think? Sort of teaching that to the younger generation about how important it is to help our veterans.
That's a very interesting question. I would say our kids are so used to us having grown up in a service background, to them it's absolutely normal. I mean, they're like, well, of course. Like,
Yeah.
why wouldn't you be? Like,
Yeah.
They
to them, it's
expect
not even a question. I think they
It's
would be
wonderful
much
thing.
more concerned if we weren't.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so we discuss it, we talk about it. We were involved in something yesterday with Jace, and we was like, hey guys, we're out here, we're gonna be gone. How long are you gonna be gone? Oh, all day. Okay, great.
Yeah.
It's like they don't even question it because they know the value, they know the importance, and they're used to it. That's maybe not all young people nowadays are used to that, or like Esther said, have really grown up in a bubble. You know, when you've spent a great deal of your life either serving overseas in the armed forces, in the battlefield, or missionary work as we did, you really begin to value things differently. A hot shower, food, safety, protection. Life is different when you come back to a first world, and you know, this is the majority of people's thought process outside of maybe what their work or some pressing matters. But to them, a problem is very different than to many people's problems.
Yeah.
And so our kids are very used to us being involved in that. They expect it of us. And so they don't treat it any differently. In fact, I think it makes them really proud of us.
Oh, I'm sure
So
they
I
are.
like it.
I'm sure they are. But it really is about that spirit of contribution and that spirit of gratitude that you all were talking about.
Yeah.
And I'm curious to know who will be, if you've selected that, how does the process work? That first veteran who will essentially be, receiving this home and receiving the benefits.
It's a process that we have in place. I want to be a little bit different from getting to know Jace. He's helped us with that process because there are transitional phases mentally for that we need. There's other help. But from talking to a guy that's going to be a vet partner of ours, Mason Thompson, he was homeless for 3 years. Lost the Marine Corps, lost his family, lost everything. And the one thing that I connected with the most that I see in my dad, because my dad's 70 and in great shape, still works out even with his injuries, is the counseling's good, but from being around Jace and talking to Mason, the physical training and the nutrition, I think, needs to be part of the counseling process. So we want to create something that's also different in the counseling side. We do have some collaborative groups that work in counseling or supplemental health care. So there's a transition phase, and then we'll get together and evaluate that. But I do want to integrate PT, physical training, because I think that's it's therapeutic for me.
Right.
And I see my dad, he still works out at 70. He's been a professional bodybuilder, nationals at powerlifting. And I think that's kind of like his training when he's missing his training in the military. But it's also a place where your body can only, he says it only handles one stress at a time. So if he physically pushes himself, it relieves the pressure mentally. And so we're working on integrating also an aspect of to me, health and wellness that's tied to nutrition, from talking to him yesterday, and a workout regimen. So I want them to go through that process. We do have counselors in place that have reached out to us. And then, we're going to evaluate the stories, and we want to help those that are through a process so there's a result. We didn't want to just be a nonprofit. We wanted to be a movement. And in order to do that, I think there are a lot of great events that raise money, and they provide food and drinks, but we wanted to be result-driven. I want these guys to be successful, and then if they leave the shop, they have skills to either start their own business and hire more vets, or they're integrated and they're successful, and then we have places for more. And that's where our phase 2 down the road, probably in 2020 or at the end of 2019, comes into play with the Guiding Our Destiny and doing a 100-home community, to where we can provide 25. And there's some programs where they're there for 4 years and they get multiple job trades, and we do a training center there. And then every year there's 25 homes that open up, getting them out. That's the vision after we prove that we can do this. That's where we're at right now.
Like you said, it takes one.
It takes one. And then we get our community and hire 2 crews, and it's 6 guys, and we video and document that, and we keep getting our awareness out there and building our following. Then we go to a community of 100, and then the big vision is, why not do 30 or 40 of those communities
That'd be incredible.
nationwide? That's the hope.
Yep.
And I don't see why we couldn't. It's always the beginning right now. Is it's not a roadblock. There's some speed bumps, and we're getting there.
And what I find interesting is that you're using your background as a chemist also
Yes.
in this endeavor. So we're talking about the building materials and everything that goes into this. Can you shed some light on that?
I think I'm just kind of nerdy.
This is where we say,
I
put on your teacher hat.
Or smart. I love math, and then I love the material side.
Yeah.
And I'm like, why not? I mean, there's a floor product there's a ton of them that we look at that are water resistant, fire retardant. You can't scratch with a knife, and they're made out of recycled materials, and they look just as good as hand scraped hardwoods.
I think that's what's so incredible. Yeah.
Yeah.
And to get reclaimed granite pieces and customized cabinets instead of it being thrown out. And then we sat around one night. I think you joined my nerdy conversations, because we sat around and figured out a dilution air concept with radiant barrier that I think would fix a lot of the mold issues even in housing, but just for our container.
Yeah.
It's fun, it's purpose driven, and it provides energy just to think that way. The conversations and to use that. I'm going to use the education side too when we train these guys and set up training manuals. I'm sure I don't think you're ever selling anything. I think your best salespeople are good teachers or good coaches.
Michael, what is different about what this nonprofit offers versus others?
That's a super good question, because when I look at this problem, the problem of our veterans not being honored the way they should when they come back, coming back, losing everything, having to declare bankruptcy, many are in a vicious cycle that they cannot escape from. And I think the problem is so huge that the tendency for many people would be to think, how can you possibly fill a need? How is it more than a drop in a bucket? And you asked a question previously regarding our processes. And I thought that was very interesting, because we do have something that is not out there right now. As Adam said, it is unique. Through his experience and background in chemistry, knowledge of recycled materials, with my background in construction and his background in processes, we've designed flow systems that make the process infinitely duplicatable and very, very easy to expand. And thereby being able to offer velocity. That's what is not out there right now. There are many good groups doing housing for veterans and processes for hiring veterans, and they're doing a very good job of it. But ours is different in that we look to set the velocity 100 times faster than anybody's doing it right now, for a cost that is so realistic and reasonable that it is attainable for a great deal of our veterans who are struggling. And that sets us apart right now.
What would the cost be per house, I'm wondering? Have we
That's a really
decided
good
that
question.
yet?
On the prototype, of course, we're making a single unit, so it's based on volume. But I could see the 320 or the 480 square foot house being in a price point where we're talking 48 to like 65,000. And then if you want us to add technology and solar, the inverters, a little bit higher. But I mean, where else could you get a house for under, in our area, I'm seeing signs go up for 400s, in the 500s. Where else could you get a house under 100,000?
Yeah, and our housing is all solar capable, right? We've already got it built in for the battery backups and for everything like that. It also is incredibly strong. So it's very durable against hail. It's very durable against winds. I mean, I think it would take an unnumbered tornado, like a Category 6 direct hit, to actually impact these homes. So you're living in a safe house, literally. You're living in a shelter. You're living in a storm shelter.
Luxury storm shelter.
Luxury storm shelter that is inexpensive. I won't say it's cheap because it's so incredibly well made, but it is a reasonable price point. It's attainable, and it's beautiful. It's luxurious. You look at the pictures inside.
It's very modern.
It's got all the modern amenities. In fact, even better because it has to be solar capable. So everything is the latest and the highest tech. And
so when we get into the big vision of velocity, we're talking about, we might be making 100-home communities at some point, but we might be able to hire more veterans because we're doing something for disaster relief when contractors need to go somewhere and they need living quarters.
Sure.
Or the international housing crisis,
yeah.
deemed to close to 1 billion people being deemed homeless over the next 10 years globally. So there's opportunities to expand in the job purpose side, in addition to the housing for vets, where we could team them in, and that's a mission. It's mission driven, and that's where the camaraderie comes in. That's what relates to these guys.
And
They have a mission.
Really building a powerful web.
Yes.
Yeah, it really is.
So for our viewers, once again, I just want you to remind them, where are you in the process, and how can people help? We talked about the amount of money that's needed. How can people donate?
To all the listeners out there, the easiest way is you can go to our website and donate. Or you could set up on your Facebook page, you could set up a campaign and make it simple, where you can reach the goal of $0 to $100 and select Rebuilding Our Heroes. But if we could just reach, we were talking about just 2 to 3% of the people out there that are listening, and get them the help. We'll continue to communicate through the documentation on the video with them. There's nothing like what we're doing.
Yeah.
And then one thing we always talk about is edification, not just of each other, is important, but edification of any other vet organization. Because we know at times it gets tough out there, or we know when we're going to get momentum that things will happen. But I always say, no matter what anybody says about what we're doing, just be kind, patient, and be respectful.
Yeah.
There might be a place down the road where they get behind us and we can help them. But just respond with respect.
Jason? What would it mean to you for anyone who's listening right now, thinking about the possibility of making a donation?
Oh, man. The possibility of making a donation is just going to get one more family a roof over their head, job security for their whole family, provide food on the table. Stuff that I didn't have. I mean, I was selling plasma to put food on the table. You know, I jumped into this thing because I've been denied by 3 different organizations, you know, just because of the fact that I had bankruptcy. I went through foreclosure. I had real life scenario stuff happen to me. And that's the stuff that, you know, we came together and, you know, we bonded as a team, you know, and we're going to make this thing happen, you know.
It's already happening.
Yeah.
Yes.
That it is.
Yeah, it's already happening. Before we let you go, Jason, would you mind sharing with our viewers how you regained much of your eyesight?
I actually started back in January. I started doing meditation.
Meditation.
Yeah, but this meditation is just like, I take like a McDonald's straw because I have rod damage. I hit my head so hard I created a rod, there's cones and rods. I have rod damage to both of my eyes. So I use the red, the yellow, and the white, and I imagine it going into my eyeball, and then I imagine the other end going into my brain. And I take like what I call 550 cord, which is like string, and wrap it around like muscle and focus on that for like 3 hours, just rebuilding it and making it stronger. Like me, like, you know, I'm getting stronger and more physical, and doing the same thing with mentally in my head. And, you know, I've gone from, realistically, I've lost my eyesight 12 times, completely blind for up to 2 weeks, from 6 hours to 2 weeks. It's the most scariest time of my life. And then now I'm able to read. I can read a book, you know. You don't understand what it means to read something in a menu. You know, it's huge. Those little things are huge. And then I have a Texas driver's license permit. You know, I just have to get a vehicle that's adapted so I can go take the test. You know, it's just gonna, you know, just be incredible. But it was just all the meditation that made it possible for me. Your mind is so powerful. Your mind is so strong. You know, you'll quit and you still got 60% more to go. You know, it's just an incredible process.
That's amazing.
Thank you for asking.
That is.
Well, I want to thank you for your service. Thank you for your service to our country.
I appreciate it. Thank you for saying so.
Yes, thank you.
And I had said to you earlier, before we started this podcast, when we were talking about the accident that took your legs, I said, I'm sorry. And what did you say to me?
No, it's just a blessing. You know, it's
a blessing.
Yeah,
'Cause
it's truly a blessing. You know, everything that happens to you, there's a message behind every madness. You know, life is totally like a heartbeat. When it's going up and down, you got the good times and bad times. When it's flat, trust me, you don't want to be there. You ain't coming back. You know, it's just everything in life happens to you, and it's just this beautiful message now that we can help other people. You know, that's the only reason why, you know, I'm here today. My injury. And, you know, I have so much drive and so much passion about life, and, you know, we're going to make this happen for everybody else, too.
Rebuilding our heroes, like Jason, but you're all heroes. What you're doing is heroic.
Thank you.
And we're really looking forward to watching the progress.
Yes.
And remind our viewers where we can go to watch it.
Rebuildingourheroes.org.
Okay.
So, and you can look us up on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and LinkedIn.
Thank you all so much for being here today.
Thank you for having
having
us.
us.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for joining us for this edition of Believers in Business. Don't forget, you can learn more about the nonprofit at rebuildingourheroes.org.